host, Bryan, Wroten, senior reporter for CoStar News Hotels. I'm here with Kelly McGuire. She is the Chief Commercial Officer for Kasa, and we're here at the 2026 Hotel Data Conference in Nashville. Kelly, thank you so much for being here with us today.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
So, been a heck of a year for Kasa. You guys, quite a bit of growth toward the beginning of the year with the Mid-House deal, and just picking up properties, little one-offs every now and then. But you've really seen growth in your portfolio, and we've seen more, I think, recognition and awareness of the apart hotel segment of hospitality. So, what can you tell us? What these developments have meant for Kasa as a company?
Yeah, that it has been an exciting year, and actually, I've only been in the seat for about a year, so I joined at exactly the right time for the growth surge and all the energy. I think this space has gotten a lot of attention in the last year, but and obviously around some of the big news, but really it is kind of the culmination of travelers having a strong desire for alternative lodging, for more space, for more living while on the road. And so I think it's a lot of the momentum we've seen is just even driven by some of the shifting traveler preferences. But for us for this year, I think a lot of the energy and momentum around that Mid-House acquisition, some really flagship, beautiful examples of apart hotel that we added to our portfolio, I think is definitely helped with that momentum. So
just to give our readers and listeners a little more information. So if a traveler they're booking an apart hotel, what is it that they are looking for from their stay?
Yeah, I think it's space and comfort, right? So you can maintain sort of your lifestyle when you're on the road. We have full kitchens, living areas, workspaces that are purpose designed that way. So I think people can just keep those lifestyle habits and that extra sense of space and comfort while on the road. And that's you think about that for the business traveler and that really being a benefit, but we see that for the leisure travelers as well. I mean, you think about traveling with a family and being able to have that extra space. You're not cramming a couple of kids into a hotel room, and you can have family dinners in the unit, and so I think it's it's that notion of that extra space really creating the ability to live and maintain that lifestyle while on the road.
That imagine also helps to at least set some kind of expectation of what your stay is going to be like versus any kind of short-term rental where you're really hoping that the property matches what's in the pictures.
Yeah, I mean that's you make an excellent point. I think the people started really, as Airbnb kind of gained prevalence here in the U.S., people liked that alternative accommodation option, but there was that uncertainty of we don't know what this is going to be like. Will it match the pictures? Will I have access to the host if I haven't run into any trouble? So, our model where you have a professionally managed apart hotel style takes that anxiety out of the picture. And the other advantage you get with this style is we are in places that traditional hotels aren't. So you really are in neighborhoods or areas of the city that you might not otherwise have access to if you were staying in a traditional hotel. So you get that. People talk about living like a local, so you get some of that flavor as well. So I think it's a combination of those two things: the certainty of what the experience will be like, and then the access to a neighborhood you might otherwise not have been able to stay in.
Kasa has a mixed portfolio. You manage both the apart hotels as well as some hotels. Can you even roughly, what is the mix, would you say, in your portfolio of hotel to?
So I kind of think of it as we're about a third of our portfolio is what you call multifamily style. So it would be floors of an apartment building that has residential apartment leases plus the short-term rental. And then we have about a third of the portfolio, which is full building apart hotel style. So that, and then we have about a third of the smaller boutique style traditional hotel products.
So, in your approach to commercial strategy, revenue strategy for these three buckets in your portfolio. What is your approach? How are they similar? How are they different?
Yeah, I think the biggest difference between traditional hotel revenue management and apart hotel or short-term rental style for us, because we have these full building or multi-unit type, so it's not single owner, single like a vacation rental. The biggest difference for us is just the value proposition for a studio versus a one bedroom versus a two bedroom in the minds of the consumer. It's a different trip purpose. It's maybe a different traveler type, and so you have to think about really on being able to forecast and price those room types according to the demand for the room type, and it could be both dramatically different from each other, but also dramatically different time periods, midweek versus weekend. So there's a precision to that. I think that you obviously you think about suites versus kind of traditional hotel rooms, a little bit, but that difference in inventory is so dramatic you have to pay a little bit more attention to it. But otherwise, it's a very similar problem, and we're bringing that kind of discipline across our whole portfolio, the really strong revenue management commercial strategy discipline.
So when we started this year, I think a lot of hoteliers were surprised by how well the industry was performing in general. We saw that, with end of quarter performance, earnings reports and all that, especially compared to just how last year turned out because of all the disruptions we saw that affected travel demand overall. What were your thoughts, starting this year and then start January 1st to where you are today? Just how have things been going, and are you surprised by just the direction that it took this year?
Yeah, I mean, obviously you watch the trends closely, as we all did. But yeah, I think we were a little surprised in a pleasant way this time about how the year turned out, and some of those positive trends. And I think even I always kind of tell people we had a bit less exposure in the World Cup markets given our size and the size of our buildings. I mean, we're sub 70 rooms in most cases. Mm-hmm. So we expected there to be some tailwinds around World Cup, and we saw that. But mm-hmm. It just then very pleased to see that positive growth even outside of the World Cup cities and across the markets and across the quarter. So yeah, it's been a great it's been a great H1. Looking forward to that continued momentum to the back half of the year as well.
Yeah, we saw, as I mentioned, like a number of disruptions last year that really, pulled down travel demand overall. Just, both in terms of international inbound, which was already down, and just other things that just made people feel less comfortable spending extra, and despite the higher desire to travel. So there's just another level of uncertainty on top of everything. Obviously, things have changed this year, but are there any other areas where you're still dealing with some degree of uncertainty as you move forward?
Like, I think 2020 taught us all that, anything can happen anytime. Hopefully it's not that dramatic ever again. So, there are always pockets of uncertainty you want to keep your eye on. So, I mean, I think that old saying, make hay while the sun shines, right? So we're in a good, good demand period now. Take advantage of it, but certainly hedge. It does feel like we're waiting a little bit for the other shoe to drop because there's so much, kind of geopolitical unrest and tariff impacts, yes or no, that keeps coming back, volatility, international travel, but travel has been pretty resilient in the U.S. as well. So I think you don't want to, be counting too much on that. But I think, I'm always that just like healthy underlying bit of paranoia. Like something could happen. So let's take advantage of what we have, but, certainly hedge for a turn. But, there isn't really like we don't want to talk ourselves into a problem, because there is reason to be optimistic. I was in the room last year for the opening general session when we saw the forecast go negative. And I was in the room today when we saw the forecast go up. So certainly it was a different atmosphere and
Hmm.
reasons to be optimistic, and we'll stay that way. But a little bit of paranoia never hurts.
And I mean, are you being paranoid if you end up being right?
Uh, yeah, there you go.
So, but just on that note, like, as far as forecasts go, like, what is your outlook then as you look to the last months of 2026 and as you look into 27?
Yeah, so I mean, we are in a real growth mode
Hmm.
at Casa, and so we're expecting you so tempered by that, right?
Hmm.
I'm feeling very optimistic about the back half of this year. I think we're seeing already pacing well over same time last year, and in a lot of the markets that we're in are forecasting some pretty healthy growth, and I see that continuing into 2027. And of course, we've got with me in the chair, really a lot of focus on building our commercial engine and really amping things up. So I think for us, we're going to start to see the fruits of a lot of the work we've been doing over the last year and the growth for some probably extra energy and momentum. But I think the industry as a whole, there's it should be a good second half of 26 and a lot of positive momentum into 27 until we hit the comps, and then we're gonna have to
I mean, there's that. There is the downside of doing so well one year. You gotta even if you do well the next year, it still maybe won't look as good, even though it is still fine.
it's never enough for our owners, and it shouldn't be, right? They should continue to pressure us, but there'll be some expectation setting during budget season for sure. But yeah, there'll be growth. I just I think so. We're again, lots of reason for optimism, just a little paranoia for healthy paranoia.
Yeah, healthy love.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, Kelly, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today. And thanks all of you for listening, and stick with CoStar News Hotels for further coverage.
Thanks.
Hi, I'm STR's Isaac Colazo.
And I'm CoStar's Jan Freitag. And together we are the data geeks behind Tell Me More, a hospitality data podcast work.
Every month, we bring you a fresh take on the latest hotel data, insights into the travel trends behind that performance, and the big picture topics you should be thinking about.
And we also don't mind getting into some good-natured disagreement from time to time. Hey, when Isaac and I start talking data together, anything can happen, and it usually does.
Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you like to listen.
This episode of the CoStar News Hotels podcast was recorded on August 6th, 2026 at the Hotel Data Conference by Owen Halstad and edited for podcast by Bryan Wroten. Head to costar.com/hotel news for more coverage from that event and more. You can find all of our podcasts on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or your platform of choice. Thanks for listening.